I'm about to talk about something nobody tells older adults. Certain behaviors push people away. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? Nobody wants to admit they're being avoided. But I'm 82 years old, living in Sarasota, Florida, and about a year ago, I made a painful discovery. People were avoiding me. Not obviously. Nobody was rude or mean. But conversations ended quickly. Invitations stopped coming. My own grandchildren seemed uncomfortable around me. I felt isolated and couldn't understand why. Then my son sat me down and told me something that broke my heart, but changed my life. Dad, you're pushing everyone away with certain behaviors. People don't want to be around you anymore. I was devastated, but he was right. I'd developed 7 specific habits over the years. Habits I thought were harmless or even appropriate for my age, that were making me unpleasant to be around. Today, I'm going to share those 7 habits that older adults unknowingly do that make people secretly dislike them or avoid them. This isn't easy to talk about, but if you're over 70 and feeling isolated or noticing people seem uncomfortable around you, you need to hear this. It might save your relationships. Let me tell you my story. My name is Vincent Morrison. Everyone calls me Vince. I'm 82 years old, and I live in Sarasota, Florida, specifically in a lovely 55-plus community called The Meadows near Interstate 75. I've lived here for 15 years. My wife Eleanor and I moved from Massachusetts when I retired from my career as a mechanical engineer at Raytheon. We loved Sarasota, the beautiful beaches at Siesta Key and Lido Beach, the cultural scene with theaters and art galleries, the restaurants on St. Armand's Circle, the perfect weather. We bought a 2-bedroom villa with a screened lanai. Eleanor and I had wonderful years here. Morning walks, community activities, dinners at Marina Jack, visits from our 2 sons and 4 grandchildren. Eleanor died 5 years ago from complications of Alzheimer's disease. Losing her was devastating, but I thought I was coping well. I stayed active in the community. I had friends. I saw my sons regularly. But over the past 2 years, something changed. I started feeling lonely and isolated. My friends at the Meadows stopped inviting me to golf outings and poker nights. When I joined conversations at the community center, people would politely excuse themselves after a few minutes. My son David, who lives in Tampa about an hour away, started visiting less frequently. He'd come for quick 1-hour visits, instead of spending the day like he used to. My son Michael in Boston stopped calling as often. My grandchildren, who used to love visiting Grandpa Vince in Florida, seemed reluctant to come. When they did visit, they spent most of the time on their phones or making excuses to leave early. I couldn't understand it. I thought maybe people were just busy. Maybe my sons had their own lives. Maybe my grandchildren were just typical teenagers. But deep down, I felt hurt and confused. Why was everyone pulling away from me? Then about a year ago, David came to visit. He seemed tense. After lunch at my place, he said, "Dad, we need to talk." My heart sank. He sat me down and said words I'll never forget. "Dad, I love you, but I need to be honest. You're pushing everyone away. Mom's been gone 5 years, and you've changed. You've developed certain habits that make people uncomfortable. Your friends avoid you. Michael and I dread your phone calls. The grandkids don't want to visit. It's not because we don't love you. It's because being around you has become difficult and unpleasant." I was shocked and hurt. "What do you mean? What am I doing wrong?" David took a deep breath and explained 7 specific behaviors I'd developed that were driving people away. He said, "Dad, these are things a lot of older people do without realizing it, but they push people away. If you want relationships in your life, you need to stop these habits." That conversation was painful, but it was the wake-up call I needed. David's honesty, though hard to hear, gave me the awareness to change. Over the past year, I've worked hard to eliminate these 7 habits, and the difference has been remarkable. People want to be around me again. My sons visit more. My grandchildren actually seem happy to see me. I have friends again. Let me share the 7 habits David identified, because if you're over 70 and feeling isolated, you might be doing these same things without realizing it. Habit 1. Complaining. Constantly about health problems. The first habit David called out was my constant complaining about health issues. He said, "Dad, every conversation with you starts with what hurts, what medication you're taking, what doctor appointment you have, what's wrong with your body. It's exhausting. Nobody wants every conversation to be about ailments and decline." I was taken aback. I said, "But I do have health problems. I have arthritis, high blood pressure, my back hurts. I'm 82. These things are real." David said, "I know, Dad, but you don't have to make them the center of every conversation. When someone asks, 'How are you?' and you launch into a 15-minute monologue about your prostate, your sciatica, and your digestive issues, people stop asking. It's depressing and uncomfortable." He was right. After Eleanor died, I'd started focusing intensely on my body and health. Every ache, every pain, every doctor visit became a topic of conversation. I'd call David and spend 30 minutes describing my symptoms. I'd sit with friends at the clubhouse and dominate conversations with medical complaints. I didn't realize I was doing it. It felt natural to discuss what was happening in my life, and my health was a big part of that. But David explained the impact. "Dad, constant health complaints make you seem like a victim, like you're declining, like you're no fun to be around. People feel obligated to listen, but secretly wish the conversation would end. It makes them uncomfortable and sad. Unless something is seriously wrong and you need support, keep health complaints to a minimum." Research backs this up. A 2017 study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that excessive complaining, particularly about health, is one of the top reasons people avoid interactions with older adults. It creates what researchers call compassion fatigue, where listeners feel drained and want to escape. I made a conscious decision to stop. Now when someone asks how I am, I say, "I'm doing well, thank you," and change the subject. If I have a legitimate health concern, I mention it briefly to my sons or doctor, but I don't make it a conversation centerpiece. The difference has been remarkable. People actually seem happy to talk to me now. Habit 2. Living in the past and repeating the same stories. The second habit was living in the past and telling the same stories repeatedly. David said, "Dad, every conversation goes back to when Mom was alive, or back in Massachusetts, or when you boys were young. You tell the same stories over and over. We've heard about your engineering projects 50 times, about Mom's garden 100 times. You're stuck in the past. It makes people feel like you're not present, like you're not interested in now, like you've given up on making new memories." This one stung because I didn't realize I was doing it. After Eleanor died, the past felt safer and happier than the present. Talking about the good old days comforted me. I loved reminiscing about our life in Massachusetts, our years together, raising my boys. I thought people enjoyed these stories. They were my life. But David explained, "Dad, nostalgia is fine occasionally. But when every conversation is about the past, it's exhausting. We've heard these stories. We know you miss Mom, but you're alive now. There's life happening now. When you constantly live in the past, it tells us you've given up on the present and future. It's depressing." Research from Stanford University shows that older adults who excessively focus on the past and repeat stories are perceived as less vital and more cognitively declining, even if they're mentally sharp. People unconsciously pull away because it feels like talking to someone who's already checked out of life. I've worked hard to change this. I still cherish my memories, but I don't dominate conversations with them. I ask people about their lives, their plans, their present. I've made new memories, new activities, new friends, new experiences here in Sarasota. I joined a woodworking class at the community center. I volunteer at the Sarasota Bay Estuary program. I'm creating new stories, not just recycling old ones. Habit 3. Being judgmental and critical of others. The third habit was being judgmental and critical, especially of younger people and modern life. David said, "Dad, you've become so judgmental. You criticize everything. How people dress, how they parent, technology, modern music, politics. You complain that things were better in my day and that young people today have no work ethic. It's off-putting and alienating. Nobody wants to be around someone who constantly judges and criticizes them. I was defensive at first, but things were better when I was young. People had respect. Families were stronger. Kids weren't on phones all day." David said, "Maybe. But constantly saying that makes you sound like a bitter old man stuck in the past. My kids, your grandchildren, hear you criticize their generation, and they feel judged and disrespected. I hear you criticize my parenting, and it hurts. Your friends hear you criticize everything, and they avoid you because it's exhausting to be around someone so negative." He was right. I'd become critical without realizing it. I'd complain about young people's tattoos, their music, their phone usage. I'd criticize my son's parenting choices. I'd make comments about how people today don't know how to work hard, or everyone is so soft now. I thought I was just making observations, but I was actually being judgmental and negative. Research shows that older adults who frequently criticize younger generations or modern life are perceived as rigid, close-minded, and unpleasant. A 2019 study found that judgmental attitudes are a primary reason younger family members limit contact with older relatives. I've worked to change this. I catch myself when I start to criticize. I remind myself that different isn't wrong, it's just different. I ask questions instead of judging. Tell me about why you're interested in that career, instead of, that's not a real job. I look for positive things to say. The change in my relationships has been profound. My grandchildren actually talk to me now because they don't feel judged. Habit 4. Interrupting and dominating conversations. The fourth habit was interrupting people and dominating conversations. David said, "Dad, you don't let anyone finish a sentence. Someone starts talking and you interrupt with your own story or opinion. You dominate every conversation. It's like you're not interested in anyone else. You just want to talk about yourself. It makes people feel unheard and unimportant." I was shocked. "I don't do that." David said, "Dad, you absolutely do. You did it 3 times during lunch today. Michael and I have talked about it. We can't have a conversation with you because you interrupt constantly. Your grandchildren don't even try to tell you things anymore because you'll just interrupt and talk about yourself." He gave me examples. I'd asked about my grandson's robotics competition, and when he started telling me about it, I interrupted with a story about engineering projects I did 50 years ago. I'd asked about Michael's work, and when he started explaining his project, I interrupted to talk about my own career. I didn't realize I was doing it. In my mind, I was just connecting and sharing related experiences. But David explained that it came across as self-centered and dismissive. Research from UCLA shows that interrupting and dominating conversations is perceived as disrespectful and self-absorbed. People unconsciously avoid those who don't listen because interactions feel one-sided and exhausting. I've worked hard to change this habit. I practice active listening. I wait for people to finish. I ask follow-up questions. I don't immediately launch into my own story. It's been difficult because interrupting had become automatic, but the results are worth it. People actually share things with me now because they feel heard. Habit 5, excessive negativity and pessimism. The fifth habit was constant negativity and pessimism. David said, "Dad, everything out of your mouth is negative. The weather's too hot. Traffic's terrible. Everything costs too much. The world is going to hell. Young people are ruining everything. You complain about everything. It's depressing to be around you." I was defensive. But I'm just being realistic. Things are expensive. The world has problems. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine. David said, "There's a difference between realism and constant negativity. You focus on the negative in every situation. When I tell you good news, you find something negative to say. When we go out to dinner, you complain about the restaurant. It's exhausting. Nobody wants to spend time with someone who sees the negative in everything." He was right. I'd become a pessimist without realizing it. I'd complain about prices at Publix on Clark Road. I'd complain about traffic on Tamiami Trail. I'd complain about the weather being too hot or humid. I'd watch the news and lament how terrible the world was becoming. I thought I was just making conversation, but I was actually creating a cloud of negativity. Research from the Mayo Clinic shows that chronic negativity pushes people away because it's emotionally draining. People unconsciously avoid negative individuals to protect their own mental health. I've worked to change this. I practice gratitude. I focus on what's good instead of what's wrong. When I'm tempted to complain, I stop myself and find something positive to say instead. It's habit 6, giving unsolicited advice and lecturing. The sixth habit was giving constant unsolicited advice and lecturing. David said, "Dad, you give advice about everything, even when nobody asks. You tell me how to raise my kids, how to manage my career, how to handle my finances. You lecture my kids about their choices. You give friends advice about their lives. It's presumptuous and annoying. People don't want constant lectures. They want support and respect." I was hurt. But I have 82 years of life experience. I'm trying to help. David said, "I know you mean well, but unsolicited advice feels like judgment. It implies the other person doesn't know what they're doing. When you tell me how to parent, it suggests I'm doing it wrong. When you lecture my teenagers about college or careers, they feel disrespected. Unless someone explicitly asks for advice, don't give it." He was right. I'd been giving constant advice, telling David how to discipline his kids, telling my grandson which major to choose, telling friends how to handle their finances or health. I thought I was being helpful, sharing my wisdom. But it came across as controlling and condescending. Research shows that unsolicited advice is a major source of intergenerational conflict. A 2018 study found that adult children significantly reduce contact with parents who constantly give unwanted advice. I've stopped. Now I only give advice when explicitly asked. Otherwise, I listen and offer support without directives. The change has been remarkable. My sons actually ask for my opinion now because I'm not forcing it on them constantly. Habit 7, playing the victim and seeking pity. The seventh and most damaging habit was playing the victim and seeking pity. David said, "Dad, you've become a victim. Everything is about how hard your life is, how much you've suffered, how nobody understands. You talk constantly about being a widower, about being lonely, about how hard aging is. You guilt trip us. I'm all alone. Nobody visits me. I'll be dead soon anyway." It's manipulative and pushes people away. This one hurt the most because I didn't realize I was doing it. After Eleanor died, I did feel like a victim. Life had dealt me a hard blow. I was lonely. I did feel forgotten sometimes. And yes, I'd say things like, "I guess I'll just sit here alone," or "I know you're too busy for your old father," or "I won't be around much longer anyway." David said, "Dad, those comments are guilt trips. They make us feel terrible, but also resentful. We have our own lives and challenges. When you play the victim, it feels manipulative, like you're trying to make us feel bad, so we'll pay more attention to you. It doesn't work. It just makes us want to avoid you, because every interaction leaves us feeling guilty and drained." Research from Harvard shows that victim mentality and guilt tripping are highly destructive to relationships. People unconsciously avoid those who constantly seek pity because interactions feel manipulative and exhausting. I've worked hard to change this. I take responsibility for my happiness. I stay busy and engaged. I don't guilt trip my sons. When I feel lonely, I reach out positively. "I'd love to see you when you have time," instead of guilting them. The difference has been transformative. The results? 1 year later. It's been a year since David's honest conversation. I've worked hard to eliminate these 7 habits. It hasn't been easy. These patterns were deeply ingrained, but the results speak for themselves. My relationships have been transformed. David and Michael visit regularly now and actually seem happy to be here. My grandchildren call me on their own and want to visit. I've reconnected with friends at the meadows. I'm invited to golf outings and poker nights again. People seek out my company instead of avoiding me. I feel better too. Letting go of negativity, victimhood, and judgment has made me happier. I'm more present. I'm making new memories instead of living in the past. I'm engaged with life. At 82, I'm living fully instead of just existing. My message to you: if you're over 70 and feeling isolated, if people seem to avoid you or cut conversations short, if your family visits less or seems uncomfortable around you, please consider whether you're engaging in any of these 7 habits. Constant health complaints, living in the past and repeating stories, being judgmental and critical, interrupting and dominating conversations, constant negativity, giving unsolicited advice, or playing the victim. These habits are common among older adults, but they push people away. The good news? They're changeable. You can choose to stop these behaviors. It requires self-awareness, honesty, and effort, but it's possible. And the rewards, meaningful relationships, connection, joy, are absolutely worth it. If this resonates with you, please leave a comment. Have you noticed these habits in yourself or others? Have you felt isolated and wondered why? I encourage you to have an honest conversation with someone who loves you. Ask them if you're doing anything that pushes people away. It'll be hard to hear, but it might change your life like it changed mine. And please hit that subscribe button for more honest conversations about aging, relationships, and living well in our later years. Remember, it's never too late to change. At 82, I changed.